Thank you very much for your time, Madam Kim Silin. And then this is a really good opportunity for us to know about the IFC itself. First of all, can you tell us about the IFC and then how long has the corporation been in Indonesia so far about the IFC?
Thank you for having me. IFC has been active in Indonesia since the 1960s, right? And IFC, as you know today, is one of the largest development finance institutions active in the private sector in emerging markets globally. So we've been active in Indonesia for now 54 years. And over that period, we have provided or mobilized financing for a total of about 10 billion US dollars. And just this fiscal year, which closed in June, we have committed about 440 million of financing to the private sector in Indonesia, with aspirations to continue to grow here in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm. With a more number big like that, is there a focus on the certain of the private sectors, like probably in the small or medium or the big sectors, like maybe you can tell us?
Yes, so we invest in all sectors in the private sector, with the exception for very few, like the sin industries and defense and so on. So last year we committed a $300 million loan to Bank KB Bukopin, specifically for SMEs, because we felt that during this pandemic, it's the extreme poor and the people, what we call the bottom of the pyramid, that are most impacted. So the loan that we gave to KB Bukopin is targeted to SMEs so they can access financing, as well as to certain individuals so that they could access education, health, as well as for affordable housing.
Mm-hmm. When we're talking about the pandemic itself, it's really devastated for, like you said before, the bottom of the people who became the effect of the pandemic. You're talking about the education and the health care and the access of the sectors of the private as well. So how IFC giving the opportunity for those unfortunate people for get the loan itself?
Yes, so we leverage the power of the private sector in order to reduce extreme poverty and to boost shared prosperity, meaning we want to reduce the amount of poverty in emerging markets, and we want to create an inclusive growth for all. So we do, the way we reach the SMEs is through working with banks like Bukopin. We also previously did a social bond with OCBC, specifically to target the SMEs. We are also active directly in the health and education space. We work with private education companies around the world, and with hospitals and with diagnostic labs all around the world, to improve access to health and education services.
Mm-hmm. Apart from focusing on the health, and does the IFC pay attention to the small and medium industry, and also lost job opportunity for those unfortunate, especially during the pandemic, as we know that many of the private sector got an effect from the pandemic as well?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the SMEs are crucial to job creation. I think we saw the statistics, 96% of businesses in Asia are deemed SMEs, right? And SMEs provide 2 out of every 3 jobs in the world. So SMEs are crucial to helping us grow. And we also think that digitalization will be a way for these SMEs to further grow their business. So we invested in 2 digital platforms for this reason. One is Awan Tunai and one is Sayobox. And both of these digital platforms work specifically with SMEs to connect them to the digital platform so that they get information for better inventory management, access to financing, and most of all, access to markets, because the platform connects large FMCG companies to the suppliers, which are SMEs. And therefore, it creates a very nice ecosystem for SMEs to grow, and of course, job creation in the process.
Okay, how does IFC seeing Indonesian market, especially about the emerging condition during the pandemic? talking about the medium scales of the market itself, does the pandemic giving the really hit effect for market, or how people here can cope with the conditions so far?
Yes, I think the Indonesian economy is relatively stable. I think growth is expected to be about 5% or so this year, which is still slower than before, but it's relatively better than other emerging markets. And the increase in commodity prices has helped Indonesia's current account surplus. So, but inflation is nevertheless creeping in, and you will see that manifest in the form of food inflation that will then erode the real income of the people. So I think we're working through various facilities that we have. One of them is the food security that is a priority for us. So we're working with traders to provide liquidity in order to ensure that there will be sufficient supply of the basic commodities for food, as well as providing liquidity support through banks to help the SMEs also to ride out the pandemic.
I'm really interested with the concept of the green developing, especially about the environment care that IFC giving the concept of loan, and also how this IFC giving a loan to the developing country who concerned with the environmentals.
Yes, so climate change is one of our key priorities, right? And addressing climate change is at the top of our agenda. We have personally committed to make 100% of all of our new investments align with the Paris Agreement by July 2025. So we're working very hard to get there. And I think the way we are looking at that is several forms. One is innovation, and that is innovation in the financing instruments that we can work with clients. So we developed, of course, the green bond market. The World Bank developed the green bond market, 20 years ago, and we have recently launched our blue bond principles, which deals with the marine and the circular economy. And through these instruments, we can work with clients to increase the positive impacts that these financing can have on the marine as well as on the ecosystem. The other instrument that we're using is what we call sustainability-linked bonds, which is a financing instrument that is tied to the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. And the corporate would then commit to improve on one of those sustainability SDGs, And when they achieve that KPI, the cost of financing is adjusted based on the performance of that company. So these are some of the instruments that we're using to help address the climate issues.
How do you see, and especially IFC, see about the recession, if we can see about the condition, the suffer in the same other country, for example, Sri Lanka, and then we will not seeing the same condition will happen in other Asia Pacific. Do you have any suggestion, especially in the developing country, not having the same fate like, for example, unfortunate other country as well?
Yeah, I mean, we are living in a world of unprecedented challenges. I characterize it as the 3 C's, right? So we have conflict, we have climate change, and we have cost pressures that manifest in various forms of inflation and food prices, as we talked about, right? So navigating these challenges requires one to be very nimble and resilient. So we work with our clients to build resilience into their business models, into their financing structures. And I think with regards to trade, we will need to facilitate to make sure that the trade flows continue. So any form of import or export bans on key commodities is not going to help, as we have seen, right? It only creates more cost pressures. So, and then of course, I think countries need to work on boosting the healthcare capacity. As we've seen with the pandemic, many healthcare systems got overwhelmed when there were a lot of COVID cases. So again, we're working with our partners to make sure that there is additional healthcare capacity. And one of the initiatives we launched was a $4 billion global health platform in 2020. And we've committed 1.5 billion to 12 projects to increase medical supplies, including vaccines, but also other critical medications, as well as medical equipment.
Okay, last question, Madam. What is IFC role in supporting a more stable Indonesia economic amidst the global recession and rising inflation?
We have aspirations to grow our business here in Indonesia from the 440 we just committed to $1 billion. Pre-pandemic, we were very close to $1 billion, and we are confident that we can do that more. We're very excited about Indonesia. It's a very young demographic, so we are supportive in the digital space. We would like to work on climate, because I think there's a lot of potential to help this country in terms of electric vehicles, in terms of decarbonization, switching to more green energy sources, as well as the skills in education, as well as healthcare.
Okay, this is a really enlightenment dialogue, and thank you very much for the opportunity. So really glad to having you in this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.